Hello, you found red, and welcome to this new video where we're talking about hardware, and specifically this. This is a ATI Radeon HD 4870 X2 that I sort of resurrected. When I bought this in just a bundle of non-working GPUs, and this one had artifacting, just stripes of thick stripes of artifacting across the screen. That was the problem with it. So I figured, why not take a look? So I tore it down. Let me open up the picture here. Took some pictures. I tore it down. I got a good look at it. And basically, looks like someone else had torn it apart, realized it was more complex than they could handle, and said nope, and slammed it back together. Because those thermal pads were already ripped when I tore it apart. That thermal paste was dry. It was bad. And of course the dirt. So someone had did this at one point and slammed it back together, threw it in storage or something, or just didn't care to fix it or clean it. And of course, here's the crux of the 4870X2. The reason they've died so easily, because you got a single fan blowing air through two simple copper heatsinks. And that means this GPU is getting all the hot air from the first one. And on top of that, spoiler alert, I was able to fix the card, and I was able to get into the BIOS of it, of both cores. And apparently in the BIOS for both cores, actually for the main core, the second one's a slave core. But in the main core, the BIOS has the fan setup, and the fan setup is set up for a target temperature. Now ATI set that target temperature at 95 degrees. Yikes, what were they thinking? Of course, that also kept the card quiet, but holy crap. You want your GPU to run at 95 degrees all the time? With the thermal max, TJ max of 115, I think? That's a bit too close. So, I tore it apart, cleaned it up. As you can see, here's the metal back plate. This cools all the VRM components on one of the GPUs and all the memory on both. So yeah, this here's the one side of the back plate. The other side is the other side that the plastic cooler shroud mounts on. So I cleaned that up, put new thermal pads on. You can see the brand new blue thermal pads there. Actually, before I put the thermal pads on though, I figured I'd stabby when I tore it apart, cleaned it up. Figured I'd stabby it with the multimeter. So, I took a look at some of the components, checked the resistance, checked all these, checked all those, checked a couple of other spots here and there. Nothing really stood out as broken or wrong or sort of bad. So I was like, well, I can't figure it out via stabby. I don't really have a good way to mount it on a test bench and check voltages live. So I'll just put it back together and see how it goes. And before I did that, as much as I hate doing this, I took a blowtorch to each core, hoping that it was just something in the substrate, that the path was just slightly broken and needed to be readjusted. So I'm not sure if that was what fixed it. I have a feeling it's more likely they were just super dirty and not getting, that's dry. Like they're not getting contact. So I I have a feeling the dirt and cleaning was the big part of it, but it is possible that I killed the cords more and this card would die later or sooner than later. But it hasn't died yet, so I'm happy. So I threw it all back together, threw it onto test bench, and it worked. So I went through the trouble of going through the BIOS on uh, both of the chips because I wanted to change that fan curve. And while doing that, I also wanted to increase the overclock capacity because the default limits for this card is 800 core, um, 800 megahertz core. Usually it runs at 750, and the overclock versions ran at 790. So 800 was the max that I could set because the BIOS limit was there, and 1000 megahertz for the memory, which normally that runs at 900 on these cards. This one took 800 and 1000, like it was no big deal. And it was running at, and I didn't even have to add more voltage. I think MSI Afterburner might have added just a touch of voltage itself, but I didn't actually add voltage via MSI Afterburner. Let me install it here so you can see it running. But yeah, put it back together. It worked. Was playing around with the BIOS, and I bricked one of the cards. Smart me, eh? Or yeah. So I bricked the slave core. So I had to go through all the hassle of the usual when you don't have a BIOS switch. Let me show you here. So of course, the first thing I tried is throwing another card in there. That's just a AMD 70. No, that's a 6950 that I have that has bad fans, but it works well enough. So I threw it in there, hoping I could get at the BIOS on the 80 the 4870. No go. So then I had to actually use a Windows PE, which is just it's like the install CD. It runs on your memory alone. So I ran it through that. Was able to access the card then. Was able to get that switched over. So after that, it worked again. I didn't really care enough to try fixing it again. Alright, so let me just plug it in here. Actually, I could test these old cards have a BIOS message. When I was editing the BIOS, I noticed that these old cards have a BIOS message that says you do not have external power connected or something like that. They have a power warning message. So they actually take power from the PCIe slot to power up at least one of the cores, like partially enough so that it can run, even without sensing power on the two plugs here. So I thought that was pretty cool. That. Get ready for a turbine. And you're going to have to bear with me because I have a webcam to record the video. I don't really have a capture card right now. So bear with me here. There we go. Start in Windows. Actually, I didn't change my username. Let Windows boot in here. This is on my old PC. It's actually my editing rig. It's got a FX 8320 that I've overclocked currently to 4.6 gigahertz. It's good for editing. It's my original gaming PC, so I keep it around. Okay, Windows 7, stop being slow. Thank you. There we go. Alright, so as you see, we can bring up the old drivers. I had to use version, what is this, version 13 13.8, I think. Where's my drivers for old GPUs? Here we are. 13.9. Okay, so this camera's not gonna see that, is it? Anyway, it's 13.9. Drivers 13.9. That's the drivers I found for this. They work pretty well. And that's the old AMD Vision catalyst control. So let's open up this here. And actually, before I had changed the BIOSes, I had a weird thing with MSI Afterburner where it would actually report the memory clock as 1125 megahertz. And it was actually running at 1125 megahertz. It wasn't stable because I got artifacts. But like that was also an oddity that by default it was running beyond the slider because the slider only goes to 1000. And this used to only go to 800, but that's what my BIOS tweak did. Now I can crank it up to 900, but I haven't gotten it stable past 800. I've tried 820 and 850, but I couldn't really find anything that it just wasn't stable. But anyway, here at run. Oops, not that folder. Alright, let's just open up Heaven. And I'm running DX9 because it's not a DX11 card. But otherwise, this is this is the extreme setting, but with DX9. Boom, just like that. I'm sorry my webcam distorts the view. I eventually want to get a capture card, but for now, this will do. As you see, it's running at 800 megahertz. MSI reports it as 2000 megahertz because it's reading 2 cores, but it's really 1000 for the memory. And it's running just fine at 1.275 volts, which sounds scary compared to modern cards, but honestly, this card's default is 1.25 volts for its normal 750. 1.275 is just how MSI Afterburner rounds it, I guess, because it goes up in like steps. But yeah, This is normal voltage for this card to run at. Both cores are running. You know, both cores are hitting pretty close to 99% all the time. And it's fixed. It'll get up to about 70 degrees on the first core, and that'll be it. Doesn't get any hotter with the custom fan curve. I don't trust that the one I applied in the BIOS would react quickly enough, but so that's why I'm using the MSI one. There we go. Fixed the card. Most likely just needed a repaste and a good cleaning and some new thermal pads. And that's all I got for you today. So, thank you for coming out to see the video. Yes, you're going to come out to see the video. This is an event. Come out to see the videos. As I get frogs in my throat. Come out to see the videos. It's an event now. But anyway, thanks for watching the video. And I'll hopefully have more of these in the future. I've also got some other project graphics cards I want to fix up, including the Granddad, the 3870, or Grandma, actually, Grandma. So this is a card that also had the same artifacting problem that the 4870 had, but I tore it apart. I didn't really want to put brand new thermal pads on this one yet. So I put it back together after cleaning it, tried to reuse as much as I could, and it still doesn't quite work. Who knows, maybe I need to actually heat gun that core. I really don't want to though. I don't like doing that. Also in broken GPUs that I currently own, I got a XFX 6790. This is also, I think, technically terascale. So, but this one had never been apart before I took it apart, and I could tell because I was the one that destroyed the two stickers, and I was the one that was able to see how it tore apart. I could tell nobody's ever taken this guy apart, and for good reason, because this one's got corrosion problems that probably can't be fixed. So, camera focus. Camera. I don't know if it'll pick up on the camera, but this one, like, it was pretty dirty. It has some corrosion problems that I think are going to keep it from ever working again, as I almost drop it. So, I'm not going to worry too much about that one. If I don't get it fixed, who cares? Got a couple other random GPUs I want to use for testing in the future, so if you want to see like if you want to see these in Crossfire, this is a 7950. The first card I ever bought for my original gaming PC down here. So if you want to see one of those in like 3-way Crossfire, I believe I've got enough space to do that now. And I've also got another granddaddy to fix. Don't know if I'm going to be able to fix this one either. Yes, that's a... See my reflection. It's a GeForce 8800 GTS. Not the X model, sorry. But I got that to fix up as well. That one's also one that I don't necessarily care if I can get it working or not. It looks pretty good as is. But there is one card that will haunt us until I figure it out. And if you want to see that in a future video, then stay tuned. But until next time, I'll see you later.